So here's another story that just came out, published March 1st. USA Today, 7 Baltimore officers arrested, accused of robbing victims. See, this is weird because I thought all this shit was over with in Baltimore. I thought we fixed it. 7 Baltimore police officers were arrested Wednesday on racketeering charges, accused of stealing from hapless victims who often committed no crimes. You know that's important because it's in red. Committed no crimes. And of filing bloated overtime claims that almost doubled their salaries. That part doesn't bother me so much. That's just a guy getting ahead.
That's white-collar crime.
That's virtually every city employee. I mean, not to cast too many aspersions, but there's a lot of that going on anyway, padding overtime.
Yeah, I don't. I've
been a government employee my whole life. Can we just like?
Well, then you had to have seen it.
Under the bus.
No, I didn't. But I mean to say, they oftentimes will quote a salary for a starting employee and go, but in overtime you're gonna.
But some of these cops made more money in overtime, or the same amount of money, just in overtime, fake overtime.
It's very common. It's common for people to do it in real overtime. Yeah.
All right, get back to the story. Yes. The indictment comes less than a month after the Justice. This is what I was talking about. Less than a month after the Justice Department reached a sweeping reform agreement with the embattled police department. U.S. Attorney Rod J. Rosenstein sounds Jewish, says Wednesday's charges involved abuse of power by 6 detectives and a sergeant on the city's gun trace task force team. Abuse of power. What is particularly significant about the allegations in this indictment is that these officers were involved in stopping people who had not committed crimes, not only seizing their money, but pocketing it. They're literal criminals. Like, they're not even bending the law. They're just going out committing crimes on their face. Right?
And they're also not, it's not just that they didn't commit crimes, but they weren't even suspected of committing crimes often. They just pull people over. I mean, Michael knows more about this, but it's worse even than that.
So I can see maybe if you're in the middle of you arrest a guy, he's a drug dealer, you take his money, even though you don't have anything on him at the moment. That's much different than what's happening here.
Well, you're kind of getting into civil asset forfeiture for a different argument entirely. But this is still underestimating it because this is a RICO charge. This is a racketeering and corruption charge. It is not just what they're saying about stealing money and stuff. This is considered an organized crime syndicate.
Really?
Which it is.
Right.
It is. They were communicating and they were strategizing. They were lying to investigators and collaborating over how they should lie and what they should say. Absolutely.
This is shaking down people they pull over or
but it's organized. It's not just individual
essentially.
cops.
But it goes a lot deeper than that. So when I was in the narcotics unit and the violent crime impact division, or whatever they've renamed it as, the same group that these guys are in right now. And when I was in that detective group, what I watched was this gun trace task force with different people in it at the time. We would get a lot of pressure because we didn't get as much stats and we didn't get as much guns. But the gun trace task force, they would go out there and just pull over car after car after car. Search it, nothing, move on. Search it, nothing, move on.
Imagine how difficult it must be to get all those warrants for each car.
Right.
I mean, the judges must have been like, you guys get out of here.
That's why guys quit, because of the paperwork.
Yeah. So,
Go ahead,
I'm joking, of course, there were no warrants.
You get it
of course.
because there are no warrants.
Yeah.
That's the joke.
Yeah, or probable cause.
Right. So we watched all that happen, and we had our suspicions on different things that occurred out there. But what you always like to miss, because people like to miss the fact that they like to glorify that I was a cop and stuff like that. But I've dedicated myself to being a scholar and looking at all this and really evaluating what our reform measures have to be, what has gone wrong. And during that research, one of the things I came across was this study that they've done. There's a couple of them around the world, but one that's really powerful. That we know this, but they proved it, that when you go into the police academy, you go in with a higher level of moral integrity than you leave it. So the whole process and culture of policing does knock everybody down in their moral perception of the world, and largely that's because it goes by a consequentialist mentality, which is the outcomes justify whatever system you go by in, which I don't subscribe to that type of thinking, but that's a general thinking in our society.
What is the thinking?
Consequentialist.
The ends justify the means.
So the ends justify the means.
Oh, okay.
So, and you're saying they're taught that in the academy.
Well, that's kind of what criminal justice is as a concept,
yes, right.
is that the ends justify the means. So, I mean, this results in obviously cops having less integrity. And you have the rare exceptions. Like, one of my trainees that I had has been in this studio. That's Joey Crystal. So you have to understand that when he testified against cops being criminal, he had to have a level of integrity to start with that was astronomically high for him to get to the point where he was willing to testify in court that these guys did this. So you get officers like that. But another officer that I went to the academy with, and I know very well, is Sergeant Wayne Jenkins, who's the current leader of this gun trace task force. And you have people like him who go in with that same kind of attitude that they're going to change policing, they're going to be good, they're going to do the right thing, and then the whole system corrupts them down till you get to a point where you're like this, because there's no checks and balances on any of this. What they ended up doing was assaulting people, lying on probable cause statements, getting search warrants for things they didn't belong in, literally robbing people hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they were being monitored the whole time. Wayne Jenkins called me and was talking to me about the things that I do while he's being monitored by the damn FBI, and they're having these conversations back and forth, colluding on who they're going to rob and how they're going to manipulate the overtime to get profited. But 2 years ago, I sat in this damn studio and told you all of those things.
Yeah.
Because for the last 50 years before that, every single rap song and every single impoverished community and oppressed community has been telling you these things too. So how long does it have to get before we wake up?
Hey, if you enjoyed this clip of Aggressive Progressive, why not become a member of the TYT network and you can watch the whole hour. You know, we do a show every Thursday and then you can watch it live when it happens as a member, or you can watch it later at your convenience because you get access to the podcast of Aggressive Progressive and other ways to get a hold of it. There's lots of stuff. Come become a member at tytnetwork.com/join.